Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into, well, a truly monumental 6-decade career. And of course, the recent passing of a cornerstone of American music, Bob Weir.
Co-founder of the Grateful Dead.
Co-founder, rhythm guitarist, vocalist, passed away at 78. And the initial reports around his death were really what make this so essential to understand.
That's exactly right. Our mission here isn't just to read an obituary. We really want to explore an artist who, defined an entire era of rock music.
This psychedelic era, for sure.
Absolutely. He invented this completely unique sound.
Yeah.
And he had this commitment to his music that was, well, it was just unrelenting, right up to the very end. And the sources we have give us this really astonishing personal context about his final days.
And the hook is immediate. I mean, you see it right away. There's this powerful paradox in the opening statements.
There is.
He had been diagnosed with cancer back in July, but the official statements confirm he actually courageously beat it.
Yeah. He beat the cancer. Exactly. Yeah. He won that major battle.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that alone speaks volumes about his fight.
And
yet, he ultimately succumbed to underlying lung issues. He passed peacefully, surrounded by family. But I think for you, the listener, the key thing to grasp is that he was battling fiercely. And as we'll see, he was still performing regularly.
Throughout his treatment.
And that just sets the tone for the kind of determination we're talking about here.
It's the ultimate expression of the show must go on. And that mindset, that determination, is really where his whole legacy begins. Because when the news broke, the announcements, they weren't written like typical eulogies. They focused so intensely on continuity, on this idea that the story wasn't ending.
It was very conscious rejection of finality. The phrasing was so unique.
It was.
When they announced his passing, this statement included this almost philosophical line. Something like, there is no final curtain here. Not really.
Only the sense of someone setting off again. It's beautiful.
It is. It suggests movement persistence, not an endpoint.
And that immediately sets the stage for this concept the sources highlight, his 300-year legacy goal.
Right.
That sounds huge. I mean, what does a phrase like that reveal about him, about ensuring the songbook lives on?
It reveals that for Weir, his work was never about preservation in a dusty museum center.
Right, not an artifact.
Exactly. It was about active continuation. When he talked about the songs enduring through future generations of deadheads, he wasn't just hoping they'd be remembered. He was insisting they be played, reinterpreted, that they live on as this evolving thing.
So it's this fundamental belief that the music has its own life.
That's it.
But how do you actively continue a legacy? I mean, beyond just the music itself, was he setting up like organizational structures, or was it purely a philosophical commitment?
I think it was both. But philosophically, it just meant he never stopped playing. Yeah. And we see that physically embodied in what he did right up to the end.
He kept performing.
He kept performing, even while he was undergoing cancer treatment after the diagnosis.
And these weren't just, quiet little appearances, were they?
Far from it, no. Those final performances were described as intensely emotional, soulful, and full of light.
Wow.
And this really drives the point home. The official statement insisted they were not farewells, but gifts.
That's a really powerful choice of words.
Think about the agency in that. Here's an artist facing these incredibly serious health challenges, and he's choosing to offer his art as this continuous presence. He's refusing to let the situation define his exit.
And we saw it. We saw him at the reunion concerts at Golden Gate Park just last summer.
For the 60th anniversary.
Yes, celebrating the band's 60th anniversary, and he started his cancer treatment just weeks before those shows. That is a staggering level of dedication.
It just underscores how central music was to him. His former publicist, a guy named Dennis McNally, noted that playing and serving the music was what Weir felt he was put on earth for.
And he did it to the end.
He did it to the end. And the moment the news broke, the reaction, it just confirmed that this 300-year legacy wasn't some dream. It's a reality being lived by millions of people.
I mean, you saw New York City jump into action immediately. The Empire State Building.
An Empire State Building.
Lit up with tie-dye colors in his memory. That kind of immediate, visible tribute is... It's rare.
It is. And it wasn't just physical landmarks. Tributes just poured in from musicians across the entire spectrum.
From classic rock to modern guy.
Totally. You had Slash, from Guns N' Roses expressing his admiration.
Yeah.
And Don Felder from the Eagles, who recalled seeing Weir perform way, way back at Woodstock in 1969. Wow. That breadth of influence from psychedelic pioneers to to stadium rock titans. It just shows how universal their sound really was.
It really makes you realize that to appreciate that kind of influence, you have to go back, right back to the beginning and look at the sound he helped invent.
You have to set the scene, yeah. Weir was just a teenager when he joined the band.
Just a kid.
Yeah, formed in San Francisco, 1965, and they almost immediately became a cornerstone of that whole Haight-Ashbury counterculture scene in the 60s and 70s, but it was the music that made them last.
And the Grateful Dead are described in the sources as this revolutionary force. They pioneered the jam band scene, but their actual approach to music was this uniquely American cultural fusion.
It was so distinct because it was highly personalized. They took the heavy, experimental nature of psychedelia
Right.
and blended it seamlessly with these deep American roots folk blues Americana.
And that combination created a style where, well, endless improvisation wasn't just tolerated, it was the whole point.
It was expected. The extended soloing, the jamming, it meant every single concert was a unique, spontaneous event.
Which is why the Deadheads would follow them all over the country.
Exactly, for that one-of-a-kind experience.
And while they were definitely counterculture icons, they also achieved these massive, undeniable cultural milestones.
Oh, absolutely. They were not a fringe phenomenon. They played Woodstock in '69.
The big one.
They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1994. They got a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2007. And for the Deadheads, there are these specific touchstones like that legendary concert in Englishtown, New Jersey in '77.
Oh, yeah.
Where they played for over 100,000 people. That's a massive cultural feat for any band, let alone one defined by just making it up as they go.
And it's important to remember, too, that they weren't just an experimental live act. They had serious commercial relevance, especially later on.
That resurgence in the late 80s was huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they released In the Dark, which had their only top 10 hit.
Touch of Grey.
Touch of Grey.
Right.
And that song, that moment,
Yeah.
it helped them fill stadiums for years. It proved they could bring in new fans while keeping that fiercely loyal base.
And Weir was so integral to their whole story, not just as the rhythm guitarist, but as a foundational songwriter, a storyteller.
100%.
He wrote or co-wrote some of the most iconic Dead songs, the ones that are still absolutely essential to their catalog.
Oh, the list is huge. But if you want to know Weir's direct contribution to that core songbook, you're looking at tracks like Sugar Magnolia, Truckin, Cassidy, Throwing Stones.
Classics.
He was the voice and the driving rhythm behind the stories that defined the band for millions.
That songwriting part leads us perfectly into the third act of his career, which was just this absolute refusal to stop playing after the Grateful Dead officially ended.
That official halt was in 1995, after the tragic death of Jerry Garcia.
Right.
But if you track Weir's path, the sources make it crystal clear. He seemingly never stopped touring for 6 decades. For him, the end of the Grateful Dead was just the moment to rededicate himself to the songbook's continuation.
So how did he do that? How did he maintain that perpetual motion? Was it through all those spin-offs?
Precisely. All the different iterations he was involved in, the other ones, Phil and Friends, Rat Dog, so many other groups,
Right.
ultimately culminating most recently in Dead and Company, which he formed with John Mayer.
And that band was huge.
Huge. It successfully toured until just last year, and even had this massive residency planned at the Las Vegas Sphere for 2024 and 2025.
The Sphere, I mean, that commitment just shows his enduring relevance, his ability to adapt the music, and the whole Deadhead community for new generations and these massive new venues.
Yeah.
And I think the key insight here for you, the listener, isn't just that he kept playing, it's how he played.
Yes.
John Mayer's technical description of Weir's musicianship is one of the most revealing parts of this entire dive.
I completely agree. It explains why the Dead sound was so elusive and yet so influential. Mayer called Weir a total savant.
A total savant. A musical genius who literally invented his own vocabulary for the guitar. And he went further. He defined Weir's take on rhythm playing what guitarists call comping as so original it's almost too original to be fully appreciated.
Right, not until you really stop and analyze it.
Yeah.
And for anyone not familiar, comping is just.
Yeah.
It's the rhythmic and harmonic accompaniment a guitarist plays underneath a lead player or a vocalist. It's the supporting structure.
And Weir just flipped the rules of that completely on their head.
Completely.
So what's the specific detail that really illuminates that genius?
Mayer pointed out that in Weir's chords, a lot of times the root note isn't at the bottom of the chord, it's somewhere in the middle of it.
Wait, okay, so the root note, the note that anchors the chord that makes a C major chord sound like a C major chord,
Right.
it's not the lowest note. Doesn't that make the whole thing unstable?
And that's exactly the genius of it.
Yeah.
He was approaching harmony and rhythm from this totally inverted perspective.
Huh.
So instead of laying down a thick, heavy foundation, his chords were open, complex, almost weightless.
So he was supporting Jerry Garcia's improvisational leads without ever getting in the way.
Precisely. It created a sound that was at the same time familiar because of the folk roots, but also completely untethered. It was pure musical risk-taking.
It sounds like he built a framework that was just designed for maximum wandering.
That is a perfect description.
Yeah.
His work wasn't about technique just for the sake of technique. It was, as the sources suggest, like warm sunlight that filled the soul. It was about building a community, a language, a feeling of family that generations of deadheads carry with them.
Relentlessly pursuing his purpose, which was, simply put, playing and serving the music. And he carried that purpose right to the very end. Performing those gifts, even while he was battling an illness he ultimately overcame, only to succumb to other issues. It's just an incredible testament to resilience.
It really is.
Yeah.
And just to provide the final personal context, he is survived by his wife, Natasha, and his children, Shala and Chloe, who have, understandably requested privacy during this time.
So what does this all mean? When you put it all together, Bob Weir didn't just have a career. He spent his entire life constructing this active, continuous reality for his art.
Yeah.
That feeling he built, that invitation to feel, to question, to wander, and to belong, it's still absolutely present.
The final synthesis here is really about commitment by design. He gets diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, and his response is to immediately get back on stage.
And refuse to call them farewells.
And refuse to define those performances as farewells. His final acts were these profound statements of choosing, even when the clock was ticking down, to keep operating according to his own artistic design.
It's that dedication to the future that we have to mull over. We've talked about his intense focus on that 300-year legacy, his view that there is no final curtain. So if an artist fundamentally believes there is no end to their work, how does that change the way you, the listener, approach and preserve their entire body of work?
It's a great question.
Does it mean the effort isn't passive anymore? That it's an active, living collaboration that requires you to keep listening, keep wandering, and keep feeling? It's a fascinating, endless legacy to consider.